Good afternoon, and welcome to the New Hampshire Energy Geek. I first met Mike Marion just before he began construction on his home in Newmarket, New Hampshire. I was introduced to him by our mutual friend Bob the Builder Irving, who was building a net zero energy home for him. I told Mike about my interest in energy efficient and sustainable energy enabled homes and about my project of following the building of those homes and the people that lived in them after that. And I asked if he could, I asked if he would let me follow his house, the building of his house, and now he's been living in it for a year and a half. So he said yes, and he told me that he wanted to build a house before retirement while he and his wife still had a good income. He said he wanted a net zero home, in particular to keep living costs down. In our previous videos, we've discussed the characteristics of net zero homes. Today, we'll look at Mike's house, how it was built, and how those characteristics were applied to Mike's house. And now how a year and a half after living there, it's working out. Care was taken to make sure there was adequate drainage. The foundation was coated with waterproofing and then backfilled. To limit thermal bridging, double walls set 12 inches apart were built and filled with dense packed cellulose insulation, which provides upwards of R40 insulation in the walls. The ceilings have more than R60 in them. The house was meticulously air sealed, which was reflected in a blower door test of 0.9 air changes per hour at 50 pascals, which means while the blower door was running. The house is equipped with a heat recovery ventilation system. The windows are triple glazed, filled with argon. They provide maximum insulation value and comfort. You'll not feel cold or drafty around these windows. On the roof, there's 11.4 kilowatts of PV solar collected by 37 photovoltaic panels. This powers all the energy needs of the house, which are all electrical. The heating is provided by 4 Mitsubishi splits. These are air-to-air heat exchangers, which work kind of like a refrigerator. They run on electricity, they're efficient, they provide heating, cooling, and moisture control. In this house, there's one split in the basement, one in the bedroom, one in the main room, the kitchen area, and one upstairs in the second floor, which is at the moment unfinished. All lighting is LED, and many of the lights are on dimmer switches, which in the case of LED lighting actually saves energy. And all the appliances run on electricity and are extremely efficient, like an induction cooktop. I visited with Mike on a sunny February afternoon about a year and a half after he and his wife had moved in. We discussed living in a net zero home, and this is some of that discussion and a quick walkthrough of his house. I'm here with Mike Marion, who built a house just a little over a year ago, a net zero home, and I've been following this house and the progress since before it was built, and so now you're in for a year, and would you tell me your process of looking for a contractor and how you found one and what that whole process was like, and then ultimately why you settled on what you settled on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually interesting. And I mean, my wife and I had been toying with the idea of moving to this part of New Hampshire for years and years and years. And we actually kind of stumbled along on a lot that was what we wanted in the kind of neighborhood we wanted, with, you know, southern exposure to build a net zero house and that type of thing. And oddly enough, the very first person we talked to was Bob Irving. We actually met him, I think it was, I'm trying to think what town it was, Amherst, I think. He was building a house, and he invited us up to look at the way he did construction and so forth. And at that point, I had been playing around with sketching plans for probably at least, well, my whole life. But I mean, seriously, for this house, probably a good half year or longer. And we met him, just fell in love with his process and the way he worked, the way he approached the project and the customer. And but unfortunately, he wasn't available at that point. So we continued our design process. We met with other builders. We actually even met with an architect and went through a big design process with that architect, and got quotes and worked with, I don't know, probably at least 4 or 5 other builders. And we never seemed to, let's say we never gelled with another builder. There seemed to be, I'd say it's a lack of understanding of what we really wanted. What we really wanted was to understand how to build a net zero house that we could afford. That was what we wanted. And with a builder who was really devoted to those concepts. And as luck would have it, as we went through the design process, as we worked with other builders, and didn't really find the perfect match, by that time Bob became available again. So we came full circle, came back to Bob, and it was just a fantastic experience. You know, Bob is a custom builder. He really only does this type of house, and the way he approaches it is, it's unique from what I can tell, at least.
In what way is it unique?
Just the cooperation, the you know, the synergy between not only Bob but his entire crew. You know, Nate, who was the site guy, all of the you know, the people who were on Bob's crew. You know, I like to tell people the story that we built one house previously, and it was the house went up very quickly. Decisions had to be made every day. I literally stopped by the lot in the morning and at night on the way to and from work, and you know, had to make spot decisions right then and there. And I was constantly finding things that either weren't done right or, you know, needed to be fixed, and it was always me that was pointing those things out to that builder. It was complete opposite with Bob and his crew. Typically what would happen if I came to the site, I would walk through and I'd happen to notice something that maybe wasn't exactly right. And before I had a chance to open my mouth, one of the guys on the crew, usually Nate, would say, you know, we discovered something and we're going to redo it, or we're going to change it this way. And it just, like I say, the cooperation and the synergy with Bob and the entire team was just beyond belief. The willingness to, as a custom builder, when something on my original design didn't work out quite right, we'd have a session where we went through and figured out the best way to approach it and change it and make it right. I'm always asked, you know, all my friends ask, and people who are in the business and whatnot, they ask, you know, what would you change in the house? You know, you move into a house and it seems like there's always a whole list of things you would have done differently. And it's a really, really, really small list with this house. And I mean, it's nitpicking minor stuff. So it's just...
Of which you've already made some of the changes.
Yeah, I mean, we moved the washer and dryer.
Right.
It's like, okay, fine. You know, that was almost a personal taste thing. And there was one tiny thing with the windows in the rear. The windows in the sunroom are taller than the windows in the living room, and there's the high windows in the bedroom. Well, we ended up raising the windows in the sunroom by,
you mean over here?
Yeah, by like 2 inches, right, to match the height of the top of the windows in the living room. If we'd really thought about it, we probably should have raised the windows in the bedroom by 2 inches, just so when you're looking from the outside, the back of the house that nobody ever sees, they'd be perfectly level. You know, I mean, that's just ridiculously minor stuff. Halfway through the build, we were trying to come up with a little bit better treatment for the front of the house, and we ended up deciding on the porch, which we absolutely love. You know, it was a snap decision. It was a quick design by Bob and his team, and you know, it looks great, and we love it. We're out there all the time in the, you know, except in the dead of winter. Maybe if we had decided to do the porch from the beginning, we would have figured out a little bit different entranceway. But again, you know, given the situation, I don't think there could have been a better solution. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way it is now. You know, we love it. So, and I can't, you know, there's nothing else. What else would we change? Nothing else. So there you have it.
Very cool.
I think anybody who would consider building a house like this, you know, I don't think you can make a better choice than going with Bob. He just was fantastic. So
excellent. You heard it first. Tell me about living in a net zero home. It's wonderful.
I have to admit I'm a little bit of a nerd about it. I every single day I look at the output of the solar panels. You know, it's all on the web. You know, the company Solar Edge has a website you go to. You can watch the panels and so forth.
Who did your install? Your solar install?
Revision. Revision. Yeah, and they did a great job as well. They were very good communicating with us. I don't think other than Bob and his crew, I don't think I've worked with another contracting company like that was as good as communicating. They were, you know, they were in touch with us. You know, this person's going to show up on this day at this time, and then 2 days later, this person's going to show up, and this is exactly what they're going to do. Very, very good with that. And you know, just a little example of how careful they were. You know, we'd planned on putting up solar panels, but we didn't plan on doing it as quickly as we did. But long story short of it, some of the house was kind of prepared for it. But they were really, really good about running the cabling, because there's 3 shielded flexible conduit lines that go from the PV system down into the basement. And they really spent a little extra time making sure they were run in such a way that you really can't see them from the outside or the inside of the house. So they really, really took their time and did a good job. We had a problem with one of the panels, you know, they came right out and fixed it. So it's been really, really good. But you know, as far as living here, you know, the biggest thing you notice is it just feels comfortable all the time. You know, we talked about how quiet it is and how even the heating and cooling is. You know, even the noise that's generated. They do make some funny noises because they have a bunch of intelligence cycles for defrosting and things like that. But you know, they're very quiet in their operation.
The splits, the mini splits.
The mini splits, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you never walk from one part of the house to another and feel a draft or a cool spot or a hot spot. It's just.
How was it last week when it was -8, -9 at my house?
You didn't know it in here.
And the mini splits didn't strain at that point?
No, not at all. In fact, again, you know, we've kind of changed our strategy a little bit, where we're using the main unit that runs most of the time is the one that's in the basement. So it's isolated a little bit. You know, you don't hear it come on or anything. And I'd say maybe, you know, maybe on the coldest night, the one in the bedroom actually came on a couple times, which it usually doesn't. So, no, it was great.
Cool.
And the first winter we had the house, you know, it got down into the negative digits. But again, we were running the HRV full time, so they ran quite a bit more then. But you know, certainly it wasn't a strain. I think they're I don't remember the statistics exactly, but I believe they're 100% efficient down to like 5 degrees. And I think they still function as heat pump down to like minus 17 or something.
Amazing.
Yeah, and again, don't quote me on that, but it's pretty impressive.
I'm talking with Mike Marion from Newmarket, New Hampshire, and he's going to take us on a tour of his net zero home built by Bob Irving.
Yeah, you have to excuse the mess. So we're in right now. We're in the main room of the house. My wife and I, in coordinating with Bob, spent a lot of time designing a single level living house for retirement and whatnot, and trying to make it as efficient as possible. Net zero was the goal, and we believe we've achieved that. So there's a combined room here that's dining room, living room, kitchen with an island and so forth. And master bedroom is in the corner with the door off the dining area there. And the upstairs is actually unfinished. We can take probably a quick look around. We've got some just some ceiling fans to aid in distributing the heat and cool. You can see one of those is running now. The mini split heating cooling systems. We've got one in this main room. We've got one in the master bedroom. We have one in the unfinished area upstairs, and we have one in the basement. So that's 4 total units. We actually really only run 2 of them. We run the basement, and what we discovered, because we've been here for a little over a year now. The first winter we ran basically this unit and the bedroom unit. But what we found was that it was actually more efficient to run the one in the basement and then let the heat radiate up. Mm-hmm. And what we find is that most days and even most nights when it's cold, the bedroom one basically never runs. I mean, maybe once a day, you know, mm-hmm. once in the middle of the night if it gets really cold. This one in the kitchen area, you know, it'll run on occasion, but not so much. And we don't even have the unit upstairs turned on. So repeat to me now what the temperature is outside and inside. And yeah, today it's a nice sunny day. It's about it's mid-30s. It's 35 outside, and we've got enough solar gain in here right now, and it's actually 71 degrees in the house, even though our thermostats are set in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we chose the lot, we chose the house, we designed it in such a way that we get the solar gain. You can see there's quite a few windows on the south-facing side of the house, so you really do feel the warmth on a nice sunny day like today. And I mean, we never really have. There's no real cold spots or hot spots in the house. It's the advantage of building the way we did. I'm sure in the video you can see the 12-inch thick walls and the super insulation. Mm-hmm. So it really does stay quite comfortable in here. It's by far the most comfortable house I've ever been in or owned. You know, there's no drafts, there's no hot spots, no cold spots. It's very comfortable throughout. You can stand right next to a door or a window and not really feel the cold from the outside, even when it's, you know, down in the single digits. So it's quite nice.
But boy, it feels nice standing here in the sunlight. Yeah. Now I'm blocking your passive solar.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Can you show us bedroom?
Yeah. Again, you probably have to. So this is the master. We weren't really concerned about you know, making it too big or anything, but master bedroom, and it's in the southwest corner of the house, so we can get a nice sunset through the windows. We planned on that. We do have a fairly large master bath with a walk-in shower, and again, there's a separate heating and cooling unit in here, and also does dehumidification as part of the package. Mm-hmm. And actually, one of the things we really found interesting, we really don't run the air conditioning in the summer at all. What we found was that if it gets hot in the house and gets you know, too much humidity, as it does sometimes in the summer, we just put the units in dehumidify mode, and after a half hour or 45 minutes, it brings the humidity down 10% or so. And that's all we need. No real need to run the air conditioner. So we're probably only using, on a typical day in the summer, only about 4 to 8 kilowatts a day. And we're probably generating anywhere from 40 to 50 if it's sunny. So yeah.
And refresh my recollection, what size is your PV system? How many?
It's 37 panels. It's I think it's around 11 kilowatts. I don't remember the exact number. And what we found, we on a good sunny day, we put it on in May, so we haven't gone through that period of the spring where the leaves aren't on yet, because we do we don't have a perfect southern exposure. We do have some trees in the way, but the most we've seen out of the system at any given moment is about 8 kilowatts. And we've seen anywhere from 0 kilowatts on a totally cloudy day to a little over 50 so far, and that was in July. That was the peak.
Did you happen to look at your production the day of the solar eclipse?
I did not. I didn't think of doing that.
It was pretty cool. You
to watch it dip.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Can we have a look in the bathroom, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, again, fairly simple. There's and actually Bob installed a separate heat unit in here that's electric, but we've never turned it on. We don't find any need, even with the tile floor, we don't find the floor is cold on the feet. Again, we're kind of radiating heat from the basement with the unit downstairs, so it's quite comfortable. It's a fairly good sized bathroom, 2 sinks, nice walk-in shower.
It is. It's very nice.
Like I say, we're planning for retirement, so we downsize as much as possible. We went with everything that we could think of that was either maintenance free or extremely low maintenance. That's what we work towards.
And all your lights are LED.
Yeah, there's not a traditional bulb in the entire house. In addition to that, all the appliances, the range is inductive. It uses a magnetic field to actually heat the pan. So you have to have a Ferris-based pan. We had to replace some of our pans and pots, but it's extremely efficient, and it's also very, very fast. I had some guests over a month or 2 ago, and I showed them how little it takes to boil water. They were going to use the microwave to make some tea, and I said, well, why are you doing that? It takes longer to do it in the microwave than it does to do it on the induction stovetop. When you dry clothes, you actually generate quite a bit of heat, and we weren't really capturing that heat. So I wanted to experiment with that a little bit. I'm also trying basically venting into the house through a filter system. So it adds a surprising amount of heat to the basement. And of course, when the dryer is running, none of the heat systems even bother coming on. It's just a filter system. So instead of venting to the outside, which I may still do, this is a bit of an experiment, but so instead of venting to the outside, it goes through this filter system because you don't want the lint coming into the house.
How about all the humidity?
Well, the humidity, first of all, it's just my wife and I, so we don't really dry clothes that often. We only run, we only do wash maybe twice a week. You do feel the humidity. I haven't really noticed more than 1% or 2 in the rest of the house. I haven't done it yet, but I'm in the process of moving the heat recovery ventilation system. There's an inlet that's in the middle of the room. I'm going to bring that over to just above the dryer. So, and we'll put a separate control here. So what, in all the bathrooms, there's a boost for the HRV system. So when you take a shower, when you're creating humidity, or when you're in the kitchen cooking, you'll boost the HRV, and that takes the excess heat and humidity, runs it through the HRV, which recovers the heat, but also takes humidity out of it, and then it passes it through the rest of the house. So we'll put a control and an HRV inlet here, and I'm pretty sure that's going to do a good job of with both recovering the heat, spreading it through the house, and also taking humidity out. May still end up venting it to the outside, like it was originally done upstairs. If I do that, I'll probably put it on a switch, so maybe in the summer we vent it out, and in the winter we keep it inside. So we'll experiment with that a little bit.
As long as you control the humidity, it's not. That's what I've heard is the real issue is the humidity that you're putting back in the house.
Yeah.
But you've got a way to deal with. I'm noticing the foam in the sill here.
Yeah.
And
it's the one place where, you know, kind of the way you build the house, it's not practical to do any other kind of insulation. So you had to spray in that 1-2 foot section.
Yep.
The rest of the basement is insulated with 4 inches of rigid foam. There's 4 inches of rigid foam under the basement floor as well. So I mean, as you can tell, it's a little cooler down here than the rest of the house, but it's quite comfortable. And the other reason it's really cooler down here is because the heat unit that's in the basement is I think I have it set at 61 degrees, just enough to you know keep it comfortable enough. And yeah, you can see that's the heat unit. The HRV is in the corner there.
The Brown.
Yeah. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I need to clean the filter out. Something you need to do every couple of months.
Yep.
Easy to do. Just wash it with soap and water. But,
and what are we seeing here?
You are seeing the main panel. You've got a bunch of network cabling that's hanging from the ceiling. The main panel's on the left with the incoming lines for the panel, and then in the middle and the white unit on the right are all to do with the solar. So you know, they have to with the net metering, they have to tie into the grid, and there's a lot of computing horsepower in there that constantly checks the grid to make sure, you know, there's not a power outage or anything like that. If there is a power outage, it shuts down the panel and you know, shunts it to the ground or whatever.
Is this a what do they call those?
Well, yeah, they do call it a hybrid.
Hybrid, that's right.
Yeah. So it does have kind of an emergency mode where it can. I guess there's a heat coil in there. To be honest, I don't know. I don't run it that way. Never have.
Do you have any kind of gas in this house at all?
None.
Okay,
Zero.
because that looks like I wonder why, if it's heat, there's a flue coming off of it right here.
This is just me redirecting. You know, since the heat pump, it's taking heat out of the air. That means the exhaust is fairly cool. Since I work down here, I just put a little redirection there. So instead of blowing it straight on me, it just pushes it down to the ground. We've done a little experimentation with the HRV system as well. I mentioned last time we talked that I got a programmable controller for that. And the first winter, we were basically running the HRV 24 hours a day and maybe manually turning it off or on, just depending, or boosting it. What I've done with the programmable one, and it's still a little bit of an experimentation, but it seems to be having a good effect. I usually only run it a window during the day, mostly when the sun's up and we're creating our own energy. So not only is it you know, warmer outside, so we're not pulling in colder air, but since we're also making our own energy, that's at a discount to us, so that seems to be helping. But just not running it at night when it's really cold outside, we've seen our energy consumption go down. Again, it's a little hard to tell, but our peak energy use last year, before we got the photovoltaics put on, was it averaged 50 kilowatts during January. That was our highest use month. This month, it wasn't quite as cold, but it looks like we were down below 40. So, yeah, you know, again, it's not exact science, but it looks like we gained maybe 10 kilowatts of efficiency.
By shutting that down during
by shutting it down at night. And again, it's a little bit of an experiment. Maybe in the summer we'll do the opposite, right? Maybe we'll only run it at night when it's cooler outside.
Sure.
And that'll act as an air conditioning system, essentially. So.
Great.
It's a lot of fun to play around with the different systems and see what other gains we can get. We put the system, the photovoltaics, up in May 11th, and we didn't have an electricity bill until this January that just passed. So, you know, even though we didn't have it up for 4 months of that heating year, it looks like we should easily be in net zero territory. So.
Yeah, I would think, but a day like today, you're probably making a lot more energy than you're using too.
Absolutely, yeah. With it as sunny as it is, and with the heat gain we've got in this room, I don't expect the heat to come on until 4 or 5 in the afternoon, if at all. You know, maybe not till the nighttime. All right, so now we're looking at the foyer. We designed this to act as a little bit of an airlock. It's not truly closed off, but the front door comes into the foyer. The entrance from the garage comes into the foyer. So, you know, it does stay a little bit cooler in this area. And of course, if you close the garage doors before you enter the house, you keep wind and so forth from coming in. So it does act a little bit as an airlock. And of course, again, LED lights everywhere. All our LED lights are also on dimmers. And with LEDs and the proper dimmer, you're actually, unlike some dimmers with incandescent lights and so forth, you actually save energy when you're dimming. And we almost never run them at full power. So, you know, that's another little bit of a savings as well. There's a small half bath here, and then we can take a quick peek in the garage. It's a 2-car attached garage. Again, LED lighting. There's no insulation in here, so this is completely separated from the envelope of the house. Probably eventually we'll do a little bit of insulation in here just to keep the temperature up a little bit in the winter. But at the moment, there's nothing there. There's storage above the garage, quite a bit of storage actually. And we can go upstairs. Upstairs is unfinished. Probably we'll be finishing it probably this year, at least partially. And again, we've got the south-facing side. We wanted to make sure we had plenty of solar gain here, so we've got a full set of the Logic tilt and swing windows up here. Actually, only 2 open, but though it's quite comfortable up here. This heating unit isn't even turned on. There's, even on the coldest day, you know, when it's 0 degrees outside, it stays quite warm up here. So no issues whatsoever with that. Eventually we'll have 2 bedrooms up here and a large bath. Storage is all. And you can see this is where the washer dryer used to be, but we've taken it out, put it downstairs. And again, we were really looking for, you know, downsizing. We really cut down the size of the house that we started out with. We didn't want anything big.
How many square feet is this?
Living area, it's a little over 1,700 if you count the first floor and this unfinished area, not counting the basement.
Okay. Yeah.
So actually, we heat more than that, you know, because the basement is a full excavation.
And it's part of the envelope.
Yes, definitely part of the envelope. But, you know, if you add all the heated space together, it's actually about the same size as the house we had in Nashua, which was 22 years old. So now it's 23, 24 years old. And if you look at the cost, even if you count the cost of the photovoltaic system and what we're paying on that, it was probably, you know, the loan payment on the photovoltaics is probably roughly equivalent to our propane bill. So that doesn't count electricity, water, sewer, or anything else, where we only have one bill here. And of course, we'll pay the photovoltaics off in 7 years at the most, and then we'll be we won't have any bills. So we're actually heating as much or more space here than we were in the old house, and we'll be doing it for free after 7 years. So
Great.
yes, it is, and it's infinitely more comfortable. Like I said before, there's no hot spots, there's no cold spots, there's no drafts. It's very, very comfortable, and it's quiet too. It's one thing that don't necessarily think about when you build a house like this.
Because of the levels of insulation and sound.
Right, between the foot thick walls, you know, with the insulation and, you know, our 60 plus on the roof and triple pane windows, it's very quiet. Yeah, very quiet.
Excellent.
Very peaceful. Of course, it's a quiet neighborhood too. But
I was going to say, it's not a heavy trafficked area.
no, it's not.
Excellent. Excellent.